Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Awakened. This is our support group from HireHealing, and we are here with our wonderful healers to support you in what you're going through now at this time, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. So we're going to be talking about your topics, whatever is on your mind, whatever you need. We have here's a roundtable of intuitives and healers that have an incredible background in their craft and are here to share their gifts with you. So let's begin. Tammy, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. So I am Tammy Langowski. I am an intuitive advisor to your questions. I channel messages. You can find me through HireHealing, but also on tammysintuitive.com. And my social media is Tammy's Intuitive Services for Facebook and Instagram. I do have a couple channeled YouTube videos with colleague Julie Hawkins. We do 2 psychic moms and also another one, Tammy's channel chats. You can find those on YouTube. So I'm open for sessions and for readings. So you can best to contact me through my contact form on my website for now. Thank you. Go to Jill.
Excellent. And Jill?
Hi, everybody. And I'm wondering, Geraldine, should we remind people that if they're watching us live on Facebook, there's a link to actually join us if you'd like to, right there, right here in the Facebook group. And then I'm on my personal page as well. So as soon as I'm done right now, I'll put that link on my page in case anybody wants to come in and join us in the Zoom room. This is absolutely an open support group. We'd love to have you in here with us. And I'm Jill, and I'm a prenatal medium. I connect families with the souls of the incoming babies. Hi, Joan. As well as doing healing work with women that have had abortions and miscarriages and stillbirths. And I'm actually, because I want to get lots and lots of practice in right now, I'm offering readings until the end of the year. So I'm going to put that link, and I'll put it in my name here too, but it's jillsteinclarkson.com, and it'll take you right to where you can book a reading. So that would be super fun. And if you love dragons, I'm also a dragon master, and I do dragon readings. So I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited that Joan jumped in with us. Hi, sweetie pie.
Hi.
Hi, Joan. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Joan Rose Stappen, and I've been running around a lot this morning, so my apologies. And I'm just really glad to be here with these amazing healers. I use the pendulum, and I'm also an author of the book of Pendulum Healing. And I have a new book coming out June 2022 called The Creative Pendulum. So anyway, just glad to be here and looking forward to talking with people. Thank you.
Excellent. So exciting. And my name is Geraldine Orozco, and I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I am a DNA reprogrammer. And my primary work is to instruct and train people to use their multidimensional body for their healing, mind, body, and soul. So let's begin. We are coming in close to the end of the year, my goodness. And, there's so much that's been going on this past year.
Excellent.
How are
So
you
exciting
leading? And my name is Geraldine Orozco, and all of this crazy up and downs. Let's start there, ladies. How are you guys experiencing it? How has it been for you?
I'll let somebody else start first. I'm going to think about that a second.
Yeah, feel free to jump in anytime.
I'm here. I'm just hearing us I'm hearing us somewhere else on my computer because I opened Facebook somewhere in there, and I'm hearing the replay, and I'm completely focusing on that, trying to turn that off so there's not a million voices in my head, which sometimes there are anyways. But Geraldine, you speak to us first, and then we'll all jump in with you.
Sure. Let's see. So tuning into the energies of the past month, we have a major eclipse this weekend. So this is a really huge opportunity for healing, a major gateway opening. We have the full moon energy that is available for us today. And there's a lot of really, really high static energy right now in the collective. So people are just, a lot of things that have been suppressed for a long time, really just wanting to come out during these times. And so it just really is an invitation for us to work and address on the things that we've been suppressing, particularly emotions around anger, frustration, and any kind of feelings that we haven't been able to realize ourselves in areas in our spiritual journey. One of the things that has been coming up as a repetitive pattern over the past month is the idea of trust, the ability to trust in the self, connecting with the higher self, trusting that communication with the higher self. And that's something that has really been coming up. So a lot of my work over the past month has been geared to assisting in creating a strong foundation, connection with the heart and the intuition, and rooting that, grounding it into the core of our actions, our, seeing ourselves that everything that we're doing is an extension of ourselves. What we're speaking, what we're feeling, what we're doing, what we're expressing is an extension of ourselves. And hopefully when we look at things like that, we kind of notice that there's a lot of weight in every move that we make, in how we're experiencing. So hopefully, as we're moving here, through the end of this year, going into the next year, and next year will be a wonderful opening energy, a little bit more fluid and lighter, where things are going to be much more active. So we need to kind of prepare for that opening, because hopefully, we've learned so much during this time of COVID over the past couple of years. I think that it's like we went through a major readjustment collectively and internally. And so it allowed for parts of us that have been rejected for a long time to resurface in order to heal. And because of the heavy energies these past couple of years, it's been hard to address those very sensitive topics. And there's been a need for surrender, to surrender into some of these kind of very sensitive topics, the parts of us that are the most vulnerable, the parts of us that feel unsafe, that feel naked in the presence of truth, perhaps. And being able to discern between the deception of the illusion and the egoic mind and the true self, the true being, the one that really wants to come in and express in its healthiest expression. So this is something that's really been coming up, I think, and providing support for feeling safe in that surrender. And through that safety, really harnessing your intuitive abilities so that you can begin to have a new dialogue with the universe. Because as these universal energies are shifting, we are literally calibrating different vibrational frequencies, different levels of our awareness are becoming active. And it really speaks to our health. That's the thing. People sometimes don't understand the connection between the mind, body, the intuition. If our intuition isn't flowing, the body becomes sick. It gets stagnant. It gets heavy. So this is kind of the thing that we need to allow ourselves to have that communication. So maybe we can speak a little bit about that. How can we prepare? How can we help ourselves in that surrender, in that moment where we need to tune in to our intuitive mind, listen to the messages, and just surrender without having to control the outcome necessarily?
I have a little tool that maybe I could speak to around that, Geraldine. So one of my favorite things to do is do a visualization and talk to me in the future, because there is no time and space really, and we can tap in. And I love my visualizations with me in 3 years. The messages, first of all, it puts you in that safe space. Like, there I am in a few years. I'm okay. Things have happened. And you can get just the most amazing insights to just advice. Because of course, if you think about it yourself, what would I say to me 10 years ago if I had the opportunity? Right now, I'm sure you can think of lots of amazing wisdom that you would share. So imagine how you in 5 or 10 years has this amazing wisdom that he or she can share with you right now. And it's just a really comforting thing to do. It helps with that surrender. And it actually, even though it sounds opposite, it helps with that living in the moment. And I had the most amazing message when I did this the other day in a quote meditation visualization. But I'm writing a book right now, and it's an incredibly vulnerable thing to do, because you're supposed to just be writing for writing, but you're wondering if it's just a mess and if anybody's going to like it. And it's just, you really have to be in the right mindset to be able to write and put yourself out there. And it's always, okay, I'm going to be happy when this is done. And it's not just in that kind of a project, but anything in our lives. It's, I'm going to be happy when this happens. I'm going to be happy when this happens. And future me said, you will never be writing this book again. When it's done and it's published, you might write other books, but never again in your life will you be writing Dragons in Uganda. So enjoy it. No matter how vulnerable it feels, no matter how scary it is, enjoy that moment, because you're never going to get to live in this moment again. And that's the kind of wisdom and insight we can get when we can do those visualizations and really tap into us in the future. It can be an incredibly comforting exercise. So I encourage everybody to try it.
It's wonderful. And, Jill, it helps me hearing you say that, because I do want to write. I was just saying that again. I've been saying that forever. And I know you guys have heard me probably say it. I've got ideas. I've got it there. I have started actually a long time ago, but I love that idea that this will be it, this particular story. Right. Anyway. And I think that is really great. So thank you for that. I wanted to say too, Geraldine, when you were starting out and you mentioned trust, and I kind of giggled a little bit because I was actually getting the word trust from my guides before you would mention that. And so I will share a little bit of what I just kind of got. I don't know if it's so much around the question that you asked, but they were talking about how trust right now is super, super important for all of us. Now, is it important all the time? Probably. But I'm getting that, like, right now is a time for us all to be going ahead and being a little vulnerable and sharing our feelings and getting out there and talking. I actually saw, and maybe it is from, the pandemic and everything that we've gone through and that, but I saw it's like recess time and all these kids are running out and we're all wanting to tell each other stuff. We're all just jabbering, and we're so excited. And my guides were saying to allow yourself to do that, to allow yourself to open up to other people. This is why we're gifted with other souls on the planet. This is an exercise for us right now. And then they were saying, just as importantly, is on the other end, please, all of you who are the listeners, please hold what everybody tells you in a sacred space. Honor it, hear it, validate it. Don't use it against them. Don't put the ego part into there to, bring it back in their face later on or one up somebody or any of that nonsense. But it really is about being in a space of just opening up and allowing yourself to hear what others have to say, to share your thoughts. And then again, we would say, flipping around, express yourself. What's been going on? What are you excited about? What are you really sad about? Whatever it may be. But this is a bubbling, is what I'm getting, a bubbling of energy right now. And it's a really great time for creativity. They're also saying as a result, ideas are shared. It's kind of like what you just said, Jill, too, about that, that there's these ideas that others can really benefit from. So, just again, I'm going to say, being a little bit of a vulnerable space, it's okay to share your emotions and things that are going on. We all know it's difficult sometimes if it's something close to the heart to really share that, but it is so freeing when you do. So whether it's with, an intuitive like us, or if it's with a professional therapist or a good friend, or maybe even strangers in the right kind of scenario, just allow yourself the permission is what I'm getting. Give yourself permission to really speak from the heart. It's really super healing. They're telling me right now, really necessary. So
that is so perfect. And you just said this key word that is so important, which is divinity. And that's a word that has been coming up for me as well, big time. Because when I think of the parts of myself that don't want to come into vulnerability or are afraid, of showing the true emotions, true self, It is this judgment that those emotions or the feelings of myself are impure or improper or not divine or tainted by anger or fear or whatever it is, our heavy emotions that we have inside. We judge immediately in such a way that we don't allow ourselves sometimes to feel them fully. We suppress them. We want to ignore them. We want to deny that part of us. But that part of us is a part that is in pain. And we need to make that connection that the part that is fearful, it is afraid of let's say believing that it's separate, that it's not okay. And this is something that we need to change in our society, in ourselves, in the way that we perceive things, because that causes a major separation between yourself as a whole. We think that the part of us that's ugly is something that we need to hide away and be separate from. But in fact, it's something that it needs to be a part of us so much, so close to us, that we begin to feed into that part of us. It literally is a fractal of ourselves. It's a fragment that is created through trauma. And that aspect of us, it exists on another dimension. We're carrying that part of us all the time. And this is why it becomes a strong reference point for when we act or when something triggers us. This becomes a point it speaks through us all the time. So we need to heal that part of us. We need to provide it with everything that it needs in order to not feel that fear or that ugliness, whatever it is, that what we call ugliness, any heavy emotions, strong emotions, angers, fears, and provide it with what it needs. And oftentimes that process of identifying is actually the greatest aha moment, because you realize that what is the opposite of separation? It's unity. How do you translate that into emotions, right? One is fear, and the opposite of that is love. So when you feed it love, it's like, oh, you're right, I'm not separate. And this is a result of cause and effect. So we begin to kind of detach from judgmental perspectives when we're looking at things and see ourselves as divine. All the expressions of ourselves, all the spectrum of emotions are just, again, an extension of ourselves. And a lot of times we're repeating repetitive ancestral trauma that is being expressed and triggered through us. So this is a really great opportunity to heal not just yourself, but your entire lineage, because the entire lineage also raises its vibration through your genetic change of your alchemy, your inner healing. We change what we are experiencing. So that concept of divinity is something that has really been coming up in my healing sessions. A lot of people are realizing, oh, I am divine, I am sacred. This vessel, this human experience, even if it's terrible things that happen in our lives, all of those things are sacred things that assist my soul in embodying its highest expression. And I think that's an important thing to remember. Joan, I think were you going to say something?
Well, I'm excited that all three of you have expressed the desire to write a book. Right? Raise your hands.
We need your class, Joan.
I know.
And, writing a book is like taking yourself to graduate school. Really, when you think about it, they actually have graduate schools where you write a book and then, you put it out to your fellow students and your teachers and you get feedback and all that. But I definitely, every time I write a book, what I love about it is I learn so much, I learn so much about myself, about my past experiences. And I learn, because I do research on various topics, I learn so much from that topic. And it really does take us on a journey. And I feel like it's a healing journey, because when you write a book, you're putting your voice out there, and then it's going to be, whether it's 100 copies or 250 copies or, 5,000 copies, you're telling your truth and getting it out there. So I think it's such a powerful evolution for spiritual workers to do. And for, of course, anyone who's in the audience, it's because evidently a lot of Americans think about writing the great American novel, or they think about writing a book. And, they start on the path and you realize, oh, this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. But there's really a lot of help out there. And so I've actually used books to teach me, and I've taken classes and done workshops, and then I've taught those things to other people. And, but I get so excited because I think it's one of the deepest things you can do in your life. And you really are sharing your wisdom. Like after I finished my first book, I think this is hilarious. Of course, I was eager to give it to people, right? But on some level, I never realized they would be reading it.
I'm going to write this, but wait a minute. People are actually going to read this?
I know. People are actually going to pay money and then read it. And and it still kind of floors me once in a while, someone I even know, they mentioned something pretty personal that I wrote in one of my books. And I'm like, oh, how do you know that? Oh, I read it in your book. And so anyway, but I think what it tells us about ourselves is that we're human beings on a spiritual journey. And the more that healers have books, and write books, the more other people who are on the same journey can really learn, because there's nothing so personal as a book. You take a book to bed with you. You wake up in the morning, you meditate with it, for me, books kind of travel around with me, so books are very personal. And so for any healer who's thinking of writing a book, it's great. It's not, my first book took, 4 or 5 years to write. That was my first one. And the second one was much faster because I kind of knew the process, and I, used the tools. I went to writers' conferences and spiritual writers' conferences, and I learned a lot on the journey, and it was an exciting journey. So I don't know why we got on that topic, but I really do think it's such a healing thing to do, because you learn about yourself, and then you're also helping other people. So
yeah, and if you put it out there, it's not that hard these days to self-publish, and you put it out there, and the universe is going to take care of it. They're going to make sure that it gets into the right people's hands that need to hear your words and your wisdom. Yeah. I love that you took a stand, that road of encouragement for people that have a book in them. That was awesome.
No,
and I just kind of want to go back a little bit to what Geraldine was talking about when she was talking about that, that fear that lives within us about going to the dark places, and also that shame that can live within us about the things we've been through in our past, especially things that we've healed from. And now we look back and in a way, we wish that didn't happen. We wish that those moments in our lives, we're not proud of them. And this is so timely, because I was just talking to some friends about this the other night. And when we heal, this is exactly what Geraldine was talking about. When we heal for not just us, but for generations before us, ancestors and other souls. When we heal not just the world, we heal humanity. And for you to not wish you hadn't had your experiences that you learned from and you gained wisdom from, and you came out on the other side, if you can imagine all the other souls and ancestors that were able to go through that journey with you, that they weren't able to come out on the other side, they weren't able to make it through, they weren't able to do that healing, you're healing for all of them. You're the one that did it. So don't be ashamed or embarrassed by those things that you go back to with fear, but let them just be there to be loved, and appreciate them, and know that you didn't just come through it for you, you came through it for so many others.
We have a question from the audience that says, how can I work on rising up and becoming a better version of myself? Anybody like to tune into that one? That's Eric.
Tammy, you haven't talked in a while.
But one more time for me, Geraldine, because I'd love to just get the vibration of it.
Yeah. How can I work on rising up and becoming a better version of myself? From Eric.
Okay, well, first, what I receive is, you're already a really great version. And I'm getting lots of I can only explain it, this really incredible love coming through. And who is this? The name of the person? Who is the person?
Eric.
Eric, thank you. Okay, I know it's overstated sometimes by loving yourself, but we will go to self-love, because becoming a better version of yourself means only that you're putting more emphasis on what you already know for sure you are. And what you are is love, divine love coming in, birthright love. You came in as love. So the journey really is for us to, they show me getting out, pushing a little bit of this and this out of the way, which can be the conditioning and things that we kind of signed up for in the family dynamic, and things that might want to tell us otherwise, may want to try to tell us otherwise. That can be a work in progress. That is a work in progress. This is why we're all here, they're saying. So Eric, you are already that. What you can do is put more emphasis and be more conscious of it. I know for my guides during sessions, and I've said it before, they love positive affirmations. We hear that term a lot, positive affirmations. But really there is a lot of magic in speaking, really positive words about yourself out loud. We love to do it in front of a mirror so you see yourself. And some may kind of roll their eyes at that idea, but really that is just putting more awareness to what you already know. It's another way of making it very clear of who you are, what you have to offer. So please buy into the fact, first of all, that you are already there. You just need to remind yourself of what it is that you're there and what you would like to see going forward. We always, again, advise getting help from others. If you have some stumbling blocks, if you've got some challenges that are hard to overcome, please do not sit with them in a way that dims your light, frankly. You really need to be out there with other people to get some help on that, to help you through the process. That's another way of loving ourselves. Again, people are put on the planet here, besides, of course, the angels and divine and all that we have, in the heavenly realms to help us. But there are many angels on earth, as we say. And if there is something that's difficult for you, reach out and ask for help. First of all, is another really great way of being your better self. Kind of ties into what I was saying earlier. It's okay to express that, talk to other people when you need help. And let's go back to what you already know for sure that you are good at and that you are worthy of. Sometimes we forget to credit ourselves, something my guides like to always remind us of doing it. At the end of the day, if nothing else, crediting yourself for what you did well in the day. What did you think right? There's lots of tools you can use to get you to that place. I like to, listen to the self-talk that comes in. So if you get anything negative coming in, I like to literally laugh at it first, and then I'll flick it out of my aura. And then I'll give a counter affirmation to that to sit in my energy field, because as we know, what we're putting out is manifesting. So I would say, wrap yourself in love. It's already there. There's lots of tools to remind you of that. And people can help you with that, whether it's through any of us, in that way, or just let things that you know to say for yourself on a daily basis. And I just want to say one more thing. They're just telling me that you already know the tools. So use them. A little bit of tough love there at the end.
And don't be afraid of that best version of yourself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we don't let our lights shine as brightly as we know we're capable of, because we're afraid of either outshining other people. We're afraid of the responsibility that could come along with it. There's so many things that can get in the way of you following your own intuition, which is going to make you that best version of yourself, is following your intuition. And that can get a little scary sometimes. And when you start to shine and you start to vibrate on that higher level, people will notice. I mean, even strangers, and it can get a little intimidating. So try to do your work too around taking the fear away from becoming that wonderful, amazing version of yourself that you're ready to become.
Joan, did you want to say something?
I felt like I got healed by what Tammy said.
I'm so glad.
It's like, well, I feel like just by wanting to be your better self, that is like a first step. And that means you're on the journey. And that it's a daily, it's a daily practice, just like affirmations are a daily practice. Just being of love and service. And sometimes, what spirit guides us to do is just be kind to people, just to, when you walk out the door, be kind to the people you meet, and kind to office workers, and kind to yourself. Nonviolent communication, which is a beautiful communication system, talks about having compassion for yourself. And I love that idea, because I think about having compassion for others. Like, if we're going to be a better person, we would have more compassion, right, for other people. But having compassion first for ourselves kind of calms us down and come from more of a center place where we understand, we're human beings. A lot is going on in the world. Can you believe how crazy it is right now? We've been saying that for months, I think. But if you're still here on the planet, having compassion for yourself, making it a daily practice, and being kind to yourself and others. But thank you, both Jill and Tammy, what you said, because I just, right before we did this, I had, experience where it was a little bit, and and that was such a beautiful way to be kind of more in touch with ourselves, and then be kind to ourselves. So thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank
You
so
should be
much.
your biggest fan. We're taught not to be like boastful, but you should be your biggest fan. And when somebody tells you something wonderful about you, receive it and know that it's true, and don't be shy about it. And if you're not brave enough to say out loud, thank you, I'll take more of that. Or can you say that again?
Yeah.
If that feels a little too out of your comfort zone right now, receive compliments and praises, and rejoice in the fact that somebody sees that in you. Be your biggest fan, and then rejoice when someone else sees how amazing you are. It's okay. We're all giving you permission right now to be your biggest fan.
That's really great. How I would answer this question is, first of all, Eric, wanting to rise up and become a better version of yourself. So in that comment, just in itself, we are creating division between the self that you are right now and a potential future version. And in that thinking, just right in itself, we are doing the opposite of the spiritual awareness, just in general, just awareness and allowing ourselves to be in the present moment. The only time that we can create and manifest is when we are in the present moment, because this is the moment that not only are we connected and interconnected to the field of co-creation in the present moment, because this point of yourself of awareness has the power to not only activate your expression, but also begin to affect manifestation. And all of your emotions, all of your thoughts, all of your feelings that you're feeling in that moment are feeding into the hologram of creation. They are attracting experiences into your life, people into your life, opportunities into your life, or lack of opportunities, illness, stagnation, based on the feelings and emotions that you have about yourself in this moment. So, right there in that moment, we need to take a look and really look at the emotions that are there. It's not that the version that we are right now is wrong, just like we were saying earlier today. It's a part of us that requires support and healing and nurturing. So take a look at the parts of yourself that make up who you are in this moment that we feel are not the better version of yourself. And in that process, we begin to give ourselves permission to just be. And this is the thing that a lot of times people think that heightened spiritual awareness is a destination. There's a process, there's things we need to do in order to reach that. And it really is just a complete state of being and acceptance in the present moment. That's all it is. If we can remember that in this body right here, right now, you begin to acknowledge everything that you are. And everything that you are right now is exactly where it needs to be. It is the exact manifestation of everything that you have been in your life, cause and effect experiences. You have done your best in all of these experiences from what you know. And in order to become a better version of yourself, we want to be absolutely present in every next possible experience, because that presence allows you to make choices that are not made from fear, from anxiety, from disconnect of the self, from doubt. It allows you to make choices that are coming from a place of trust, of connection, of embodiment, of presence. And presence means that you're aware of yourself and all things around you in that moment as a part of you rather than separate. So this begins to really shift the way that you embody yourself in this moment. And that's the starting point. The most powerful beginning and ending of every moment is your awareness in this exact little body that you're in right now. And so all of the parts of us that we are feeling that are unworthy or have felt pain, and perhaps we're acting out in not the best self, in meditation, take time to nurture and treat yourself with compassion throughout your day. If you begin to feel some of those parts of you, stop and nurture them. Just connect with yourself and allow yourself to literally put your hand on your chest and breathe and feel love for this vessel. That compassion will release the charge of judgment that we have towards parts of us that are separate. And in vivo, you are literally changing the chemistry and your vibrational frequency in what you're manifesting in the moment. So it's really important to just remember, because I get this question a lot, how to become a better version of myself. And we need to remember that it's not a doing, it's a being, it's a state of being that has to be acknowledged from the core self. So Eric, you're doing great, as everyone was saying here.
You're doing great. And I love, Geraldine, what you were saying. Basically, you're saying you don't have to rise to be that better version of yourself.
Exactly.
You're not rising anywhere. You're not reaching for anything.
Yeah.
That you is right here, right now. You just have to start making the best decisions for you. And that a lot of times comes from that moment of just putting your hand on your heart and being present in the moment.
Yeah. Cass Adams says, learning to trust myself feels like the hardest part of all of this. Forgiving myself for choices made when I wasn't in alignment and having gnosis that I am now in alignment kind of feels overwhelming. Okay, well, that's an amazing comment, because it speaks to the other side of it, which is part of this process that we're going through of awakening right now collectively. What happens when you're doing the work and you now recognize this new version of yourself that's not tied to the old programs and patterns that you're used to? It is this new self. And the self that is in its most vulnerable state, in its most true self, this sometimes begins to disconnect you from the people that you're used to being around, places, things, activities that you're used to being around. And at times, this is part of the spiritual process that some people can call the dark night of the soul, where you begin to feel isolated in this new self and the ability to accept yourself as this new awareness. And this is the part in the journey of the Buddha, for example, the story of the Buddha. This is something that it really spoke in his story of his life, that every moment that he would go back into the cave and meditate and figure things out, when he would emerge from that cave to go back to his life, he was in chaos. It was very hard for him to reintegrate, that stillness into the present moment. So we, again, have to look at all parts of ourselves as sacred and divine as part of the process, so that when we are now embodying this new self, it doesn't become something new as separate. It's been there all along. We just allowed it to have the permission to rise and express itself through your healing. And it also means that there was nothing broken or nothing disconnected before. It is a reintegration. You are becoming whole. And literally, the multidimensional body, your chakra system, everything begins to merge into one whole self, as opposed to separate fragmentations of yourself. We become one whole self. And this whole self allows you to manifest, to heal yourself, to tune into powerful intuition, to activate manifestation, and really attract things that are really great for your core self. This is the part where, when we look at the parts of us that need forgiveness, for example, that's something that I really would love to speak to, ladies. How do we forgive ourselves? Forgiveness is such a powerful realization that we are divine in everything that we've done, even if it's something that is seen as negative. We want to not judge those things, because everything is cause and effect, simply as that. It's cause and effect. So any comments on that?
Well, I just wanted to say that when we start on a spiritual path, we sometimes have the idea that everything's going to be wonderful, but it's almost like the light is now shining on us, and we have multiple realizations. And in the beginning, that, of course, when you're not used to that happening, it can be really hard, because you have to accept some truths about yourself, and so then you kind of do the work. And it's almost like unpeeling, or, it's like an artichoke where you go deeper and deeper into yourself. So while you're doing this process, it is so important to forgive yourself. It's kind of like, and give other people too, because they're a part of us also, so it's forgive. But sometimes you have to look at what you're forgiving first. You have to kind of examine it and process it. And then actually over time, sometimes you have to pray to forgive yourself and pray to forgive somebody else. And sometimes you're unwilling to even pray for yourself or somebody else. You have to pray for willingness, to forgive yourself, and willingness to forgive someone else. I did this process, and I think 3 weeks is great. If you can pray for yourself or for other people for 3 weeks, in your morning spiritual practice or night spiritual practice, you will be amazed. You're like, you can really get free from a lot of this stuff. And I had at one point in my life, I had a mother-in-law who just drove me crazy. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but and she was going to come stay with us. We were going to take a cruise, and I was going to be alone with her and my children, like for a 2-week journey. And believe me, I prayed and prayed and prayed before that trip. And I just must say, it turned out it was so fabulous, and we had some butting of heads, on the ship. She was upset because I got her own room, which if you've ever taken a cruise before, having your own room is wonderful, because you can get away from things. And so halfway through the trip, she met a group of 5 people, and they were all crammed into one room. And then she realized how grateful she was. But we had a healing on that trip, So doing the prayer work can really help. And if you're not willing, pray for willingness, first step, and then pray for yourself and the other person. So anyway, that's my little forgiveness tip. Thank you.
So, and Joan, just to clarify for all those that are listening, what is prayer? How can we define prayer?
Well, we've all, most of us probably grew up knowing, or thinking of prayer as where you're beseeching a higher power or a God for what you want, right? Bring me a new bike for Christmas, and then the bike doesn't arrive and you think that God's not listening, right? But prayer really is getting in touch with that part of ourselves that is divine and that already knows that in, our human self, if we're asking our divine self and our higher power for the highest and best for us and for another person, then that will manifest, So it goes back to what you said about being separate. The human being who's in need of prayer usually feels separate, right? But through the process of praying, we realize that we are connected to our high self and our higher power and to our spirit guides. So it's a process of learning we are divine at its most elemental. So, and it doesn't really matter what words you use. The strongest word can even just be help, help me, in any given situation. And I've just had so many prayers answered in my life. The trick is to remember to ask for help.
Yeah, and I want to channel Rachel Cooley because I know she's with us, but because I know what she's saying, and I also really want to hear what Tammy has to say about forgiving yourself because I know she's got some hot stuff there for you. But don't expect to have to do it like Joan just said yourself. I mean, for us just to sit and try to forgive ourselves for the things that we feel very ashamed of and unhappy about, and why did I have to be that person during that time in my life? Be okay with not having to understand it and not having to analyze it. Just know that everything happens divinely and get that help to forgive yourself. I can't make this happen. I cannot take this off my heart by myself. It still bothers me. Angels, please help me. Please take this for me. God, angels, ancestors, anybody that you feel close to you, your guides, your dragons, whoever it is. And Rachel teaches a lot about how to do that with your angels. And I've used it not just forgiving myself, but forgiving atrocities in the world. When something came across my feed the other night and I sat there in terror, sitting in my chair thinking, I don't know how I can forget this. I don't know how I can get this image out of my mind. I don't know what to do. And Rachel was right there with me. And I said, okay, angels, I need you to come here, be super present with me right now and just take this off of me and take this away. They'll help. The help is so there to help you forgive yourself. You don't have to do it by yourself. So that's just a little tag on to what Joan's saying about prayer.
Beautiful. And we do have some questions here. Rick Keefe says, what are some of your favorite remote healing experiences, success stories with remote healing?
Getting a DNA reprogramming with Geraldine. That's got to be a favorite remote healing right there.
Oh,
Do we
Thank
know what
you.
he means
That's
by
so sweet.
remote? Are we thinking remote as in I don't have to go there to do it? Do you think that's what he's talking about? Or is there
Well,
some more deeper meaning to the word remote?
no, so basically that we are all remote healers at this time, especially with COVID. We're doing a lot of readings remotely and healings remotely. So maybe we can each share a quick story on maybe, what a success story or our favorite stories of healing that we have experienced through the remote work, which means that we're here and then they're somewhere else. I think, and it's an interesting question, Rick, because I think a lot of people think that healing remotely isn't the same as in person. And I strongly think that sometimes it can even be more powerful because, and I don't know what you ladies feel about this, but I spend a lot of time creating my space energetically. And so I feel that when I connect with clients, I really connect, in that other dimensional plane literally, and I can remote into their body, into their space, really tune in to find details that sometimes when you're in next to the person, there's a lot of distraction of the physicality of the connection rather than the connection of the mind. So ladies, would you like to share some of your, and we do have one other important question after that. So maybe we'll just kind of move through quickly, but please do share.
Yeah, so go ahead, John. Now, mine's actually very quick. Yeah. So I was just going to say, I agree with you, Geraldine. I think that is a good point about sometimes remote, how that can be, I don't want to call it more effective, but to your point of what you said, I agree with that. I know for me, usually as far as any kind of remote healings have been, something I think about, it's not that one particular comes to mind. It's more that I just noticed that usually after I've been with clients, they will, I'd started hearing repeatedly, I feel so much better, whether we were actually working on a healing or it was just through a session of a reading. But my guys were quick to finally tell me, this is many years later when they finally told me this, they said, Tammy, everybody who comes in or has a session with you basically gets a healing. And I was like, oh, well, I guess that's so obvious, but I never thought about that. So I'll make sure to tell my clients that. So I would say for me, what's kind of profound about it is just that the help is there energetically from our angels, guides, source during like sessions and things like that they're really helping to work on the energy. So, and there was something I know, because we have that other question, something I was going to say to what we were talking about previously. Oh, the forgetting the self. I'll make this very quick. I look at it in very layman terms. First of all, for me, it's I go to the saying that we all hear that we're not perfect. Okay, I'm not perfect. My life wouldn't necessarily be perfect. If there's anything I fall back on that I'm concerned about that maybe I've done or didn't make the right decisions, I might first ask myself, okay, realistically, what did I learn from it? Was there something I learned? What could I do differently? And then when I come up with those answers, because you pretty much will have those answers, then it's like, okay, enough already. I don't need to beat myself up about it. I am not a perfect person. None of us here are on the earth plane. We're all in progress of learning, right? So anyway, just to go easy on yourself in that way, put it into perspective that way, see what you learn from it, what you could do differently next time. And some of those things are going to pay off for you later on too. Those experiences that you have no idea how they're going to happen, but they do. That wealth of knowledge of what you went through, whether it's something you did to somebody else or was done to you, can be used to benefit other people later on. So I just wanted to add that in there quickly.
So perfect. Thank you so much for that, Tammy. Jill or Joan?
With kind of just a healing I did that I just thought was kind of amazing. I lived in Venezuela for a year. I was a teacher overseas in 2010 to 11. And I had a client who lived in Morgan Hill and she raised horses. So I was just kind of blown away. She was having a really hard time with one of her horses. And it was a mare that was kind of acting out. And I did a reading on the horse, and it turned out that the horse felt like it was a stallion who had gotten who ended up in a mare's body. And it was really upset. Furious, and you can imagine the energy of stallions. And so I did a healing on the horse, talked to it, and did a healing on it. And then I asked, my client asked, should I race this horse? And I, it came out, go for it, And so the horse's life, I heard later, that the horse did extremely well, and the horse's life was totally enhanced by being able to use the masculine energy in the female body. There had a purpose for it, and the horse calmed down. And of course, the owner was happy that that the horse was happy. And that was all done remotely. And that was a few years ago. And that really awakened me to the power of doing remote healing. There's also there's an author, Russell Targ, I think it's Targ. He has written several books on remote viewing. He was a Stanford professor. And so he talks about how people have this power to travel and, forward or backward in time. And, and we can be together in spirit, like if we're on the phone or we're on Zoom, just like we are now. So very revealing if you're interested in remote viewing. Thank you.
Yeah. And Rick, I would say, I know sometimes if I'm going to do a healing, we won't even necessarily have to be on anything together. I'll say, what time are you going to bed? And they'll say, okay, or I'll say, text me when you lay down in bed. And then when they text me, that's when I'll sit down and do the healing as they're going to sleep. And that's completely remote. And I just encourage you, if you're looking for that kind of service, go with your intuition as far as finding that person, that healer, that light healer to help you. And another thing is, if you're looking for other types of healing, like spiritual healings, you have the full capability to go check things out without actually going there. So if there's a retreat or something that looks really interesting to you, when you go to sleep or when you meditate, just give your soul, your spirit, permission to go check something out. Go receive a remote healing and kind of do a test run. And then maybe you say, okay, if something looks like I need to be there in person, then you need to go and manifest it so that I can be there in person. But this looks really interesting to me. I want you to go see, and then just have faith that you have been healed, that you are healing in the process. You're not always cognizant of healing. Sometimes it takes just a lot of faith after a session or a meditation or, tapping into your ancestors. It takes that faith to know that the wisdom has been downloaded to you. And it might not be something that you are aware of in the moment, but it will serve you at some point in your life. So I think as far as remote goes, those are some tips on how to work remotely to be healed, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, whatever it is.
Awesome. So a couple of things let me see what I can share. For me, with the remote process, I am just so amazed when I work with clients, and I do a lot of home clearings as well. And I do, hypnotherapy and also DNA reprogramming. And the amazing thing is that when we connect with clients, we are connecting sometimes weeks in advance, because by the time that we meet with the client, there have already been several clients before that are perfectly in tune vibrationally to the same kind of healing frequency that's coming in for the client. And when the client is in the room, and we always ground and protect our healing space, they literally feel the shift in the room. It's very interesting. And I just find it fascinates me every time, because it really speaks to the power of intention and vibrational frequency, things that you can see with your eyes, and of course your third eye, which in my mind is the real eyes of seeing things. In homes, I can remotely see people that are in the homes. I can remotely see negative stagnation energies that are in the homes. And a lot of times it's a lot of stagnant emotion that a person has been feeling for a long time. For example, sorrow, and perhaps every night they're crying in their bed. So sometimes we don't realize that we are emitting a lot of emotion. It's like energetic pollution in a sense, that we pollute our space with that energy. And unless we're actively clearing it from our space, it's going to be staying there. It's lingering there, especially if we haven't done any internal work to shift ourselves from that space in a conscious manner. We sometimes come back into the room and we sink right back into that depression or that sorrow or that. And then that's why people have a hard time sleeping, for example. They can't get a good night rest because they are just weighed over and over with this heaviness. And the interesting thing, during lunar shifts like this, a lot of this emotion is intensified. So sometimes people really go down into slumps of emotion, or sometimes it's just like, boom, it's like everything that was suppressed is just exploding. And we go into rage or anger, or there's a lot of, disputes in the family, for example. This is scientifically proven that, in moon phases, there's definitely a psychological trigger that is occurring to us. A lot of that is psychic activity is heightened, during those times. So it's very interesting. And when you literally clear that energy from the room, the client feels lighter, and the color, vibrational frequency of the room will change. The same thing in the physical body. If I have a client that's laying there, if she's in pain, for example, or he or she is feeling some kind of discomfort, you'll see it as a color in the body. And by the end of the session, it will be removed. That color will have shifted out of the space. And of course, I'm a pranic healer as well. So when you bring in certain vibrational frequencies, and you have to be very careful knowing exactly the frequency that the body needs, because our system is very sensitive and sometimes it can shift. So those are just a couple stories, but remote healing is incredibly powerful. And the more that we train ourselves, I think remote healing should be something that all of us train, really, because it helps us expand our holographic vision. And it can create a lot of healing in your home, very good. So let's go to the next question. Sometimes I am being physically attacked by reptilians and other entities and beings from 4D. Is that myself creating my reality? And how do I protect myself? Okay, so people that are experiencing entity attacks or just attacks of other beings, is it something that we're creating? How can we protect ourselves?
Kind of, for me, I get kind of yes and no. But I will pose that more directly to my guides. They're telling me sometimes you're in a space to allow other beings to come into your energy field. So we would first say, where are you at in that space initially that might be allowing others to come in a vulnerable space, which is why it is important for you to know your own space through grounding, meditation, so that you are more aware of the tools to use to protect your energy. So we say, yes, sometimes it can be your own thoughts, where your emotions are at, that can attract such beings or entities. Although one who is absolutely grounded within themselves and in their own power will not allow such beings to be attracted to their energy field. Okay, they're hesitating with that. Hopefully that makes sense, first of all, what they're saying to you.
Absolutely. And I agree. Couldn't agree more, Tammy.
Yeah.
I mean, everything begins and ends with us. And sometimes people cringe when they hear that because they're like, what do you mean? You know, I'm literally seeing in the physical this reptilian or this being or this entity, and it is attacking me. You know, how can I be creating such a thing? But it's because we need to understand the laws of creation that occur on it's a vibration. We are energy, we are vibration, and we are layers of vibration and energy. What's vibration and energy? Thought forms. So if our physical body, if we are in a state of fear, if we have experienced a lot of trauma in our lives that made us feel helpless, that gave us situations in which we felt completely powerless, inability to take control of our emotions, to even express our emotions sometimes, or any other kind of trauma, whether it was abuse, sexual, emotional, physical, those kinds of abuses, a lot of times our ability to be sovereign over the body, to manage this physical body, we kind of we don't understand what that looks like, and we have to teach ourselves. And the way that we teach ourselves is by first understanding, you know, what that trauma did to our understanding of ourselves. Our emotions, feeling helpless, create a subconscious program that things externally have more power over us. And as children, you know, the back end of that is that it's a cyclical program. More than likely, the person affecting us with that trauma is a result of trauma themselves. And it goes down the lineage for a really long time, either the father or the mother lineage. So again, looking at cause and effect. So what happens? A little child is now affected by this, grows up, and now has this program that they are helpless and incapable of, you know, protecting themselves. What is protection? Protection for the person perpetrator would be in themselves recognizing the ability to manage their perception in those traumatic experiences, provide support for themselves, love for themselves in those moments when trauma is occurring. And so this is where we begin to shift the vibrational frequency of ourselves into a more empowered state. First of all, accepting what is occurring in this moment, accepting what we're creating. It doesn't mean allowing it to continue, but once you accept it, you recognize the parts of you that are feeding into this projection, the fear, the insecurity, the doubt, the mistrust, the feeling of helplessness. All of those emotions are feeding. So if we address that root cause, you will definitely not experience this kind of parasitic exchange, because remember that these beings have the same thought as you. They feel helpless, and they feel that they are, you know, not in control necessarily. They need to feed off, or they need to have an imbalanced exchange of something. So you're a match to that. If you change that, you know, you will be met with other things, maybe other higher vibrational angelic beings. And again, you know, a lot of us here, we work with guides. So definitely connect to your higher self, and whatever guides are a manifestation of that higher self, in order to remind yourself that you are a whole system of creation, not just a single individual perception. And that will help you pull away from any feelings of being helpless or disconnected from that whole. So that's a really interesting question. Thank you for that question. Any other comments, Joan, please?
Well, I was reading a spiritual book this week. I can't remember which one, but they were also talking about how you can, just as you would ask a person you didn't want to be around to leave your space, or you can also do that with beings that you do not want in your space. So you tell them to leave.
Yes.
And you can even I always call on Archangel Michael. You know, he's the protector and he brings in his legions, and they just come right in. I've asked them to leave and they go. And this has happened to me a couple times when I've been, you know, I've been dowsing for like 6 hours. And I overdid it. You know, I spiritually overdid it. or, sometimes I feel weak, or maybe I'm sick or something. So you literally, you get back in your own power, call on Archangel Michael. I also work with Jesus and Mary, who expelled the spirit. And I just ask them, please protect me and take care of me. I know Rachel would be saying all of this too. And and then I also ask that the angels and archangels sit on top of my house.
Yes.
Protect my porch.
Protect your home.
The
Yes.
back door, I was a single mom with two, younger children. And so I would just call on the angels for help. So a little bit
Absolutely.
of advice to add
Love
to
that.
everyone else.
So true. So true. Creating a sphere of light around your body, around your home. And I put 4 angels at every direction of your home and your body. Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you so much. Awesome. Well, ladies, any final comments? Anything else that we want to just comment on before we end our session today?
I was going to tag on just a little bit to what we were just saying there. This is a very quick little story, but I'd gone to a house clearing that had a lot of negative stuff going on there, and protected myself well, of course, before I went and all. And there was an instance where I see more through my mind's eye. Clairvoyantly for me, I generally see in my mind's eye than I see outwardly, though I have had those experiences. But anyway, and yeah, there was something in one of the rooms that was, trying to frighten me, and I just really went into a place of amusement. But what I like to do too, just another thought, is I like to, if there's anything around that I'm thinking is of a negative, I will just unfurl my wings. I will literally pop them out large and stand in my power. And that's what I did. I was not fearful, because I really do feel pretty good about my power. And I don't mean that from an ego perspective. Yeah. And definitely it slithered away. It went away, so I share that because when you are protected. I love what Joan was saying with all the angels. I too asked for Archangel Michael comes in, and the angels are so very happy to protect us. And so I do that as well. But anyway, I just wanted to share that story because that was just something that kind of came to my mind when we were talking about it.
That is so important. Thank you so much for adding that as well. Something that you can say to yourself is, I am divinely guided and powerfully protected. And what that means is that the experiences that you're having, they're all part of the divine plan of your highest expression. They're going to help you embody even if it's a scary moment. We are looking to heal the parts of us that are hurt in order to become empowered and whole again, and remember our power, as a whole, to become conscious creators of that. You can work with breaking contracts with those beings as well, experiential contracts. Very good. There's so much more that we can talk about that topic as well. I'm just realizing that that's a really huge topic. There's so much. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. And please do connect with our incredible healers here. Tammy, where can we find you? Get readings with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on HireHealing, or tammysintuitive.com is my website. I have a contact form there, and I will get back to you if you have an interest in a session. Thank you.
Fantastic. Jill?
JillSteinClarkson.com. And then if you want to reach out to me via email, JillSteinClarkson@gmail.com.
Excellent.
Gmail.com.
Joan?
I am found at joanrosestaffin.com, and welcome any emails. My email address is up there right now. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And all of the links to their websites are here on this video. So if you wish to connect with them, please do. Amazing healers. And if you have any questions or would like to work with me in hypnotherapy or DNA reprogramming, my website is GeraldineOrozco.com. And I look forward to connecting with all of you on our next event, which is scheduled for December 1st. And actually, Joan will be leading this workshop for us. It's a really powerful workshop where we are writing through, what is that word? Memoir, and healing through memoir. So I think we were just talking about writing books earlier today. This is an incredible segue into just the healing, therapeutic assistance of that. Joan, do you want to say any couple words about that or what you're going to be doing?
Well, I would like everyone to bring a pen and a notebook because we are going to do a few exercises, and it's just going to be the start of a process that can be a lifelong journey, and it helps you process, heal, and transform your life. So I'm excited.
That's incredible. I'm excited too. I cannot wait for that. All right, my loves, thank you so much. Have an incredible week and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.